Hello, and welcome to the virtual information session for the Veterans and Licensed Practical Nurse to Bachelor of Science in Nursing pathway at Olympic College. My name is Ashley Blake. I'm the Student Success Coach for the Healthcare pathway at OC. During this video, we will review all of the information that you'll need in order to apply to our VL-BSN pathway. This pathway is specifically designed for LPNs and veterans who served as medics in the military. This is a selective admissions program, which means that the admissions process is separate from the application to Olympic College. We do accept applications year-round, but we have one application deadline each year on March 31st. We select 20 students to join the pathway, and they start their nursing classes in the following fall quarter. This program takes 8 consecutive quarters or 2 years to complete. At the end of the program, students receive a Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree and an Associate in Technical Arts degree. After graduation, they are qualified to become registered nurses in Washington State. We do have specific criteria for who qualifies to apply to this pathway. LPNs who have an up-to-date license in Washington State are eligible to apply. Military medics who served in the Air Force and are at least skill level 5 or in the Army and/or 68 Charlies are also eligible to apply because their training is equivalent to an LPN. We are currently developing the admission criteria for our corpsman students, although we do need approval before we can accept them as eligible applicants. Students who do not meet these specific criteria can apply to our other nursing pathways. In order to apply to the VL-BSN pathway, you will need to apply to Olympic College if you haven't already. You'll need to have the reading section of the AccuPlacer and several prerequisite courses. If you've completed classes outside of OC, you'll need to submit all official transcripts, and you'll also need to submit verification of either your LPN license or your DD-214 to verify your service. You will need to complete and submit all application materials by the March 31st deadline. The AccuPlacer is a placement exam that Olympic College uses to determine your placement in math and English. If you've already completed your math, English, or other prerequisites, you may not need to take the entire AccuPlacer. However, we do require all applicants to have at least the reading section of the AccuPlacer to be eligible to apply, regardless of if you've already completed your English classes or if you have another degree. We do have a minimum score to be eligible to apply. On the next generation version of the AccuPlacer, which is the currently administered version, you need at least a 260 on the reading section. We also accept older scores of the AccuPlacer. We don't have an expiration date. So if you have the classic version of the AccuPlacer, you'll need at least an 84 on the reading comprehension section to be eligible to apply. The following prerequisites are required to be completed to be eligible to apply. You will need English 101, which is your college composition class, Psychology 100, which is your general or intro to psychology class, Chemistry 121, which is your intro to chemistry class, both sections of anatomy and physiology, which is biology 241 and 242, and biology 260, which is your microbiology class. You need at least a 2.0 GPA or above in all 6 of these specific classes in order to apply to this pathway. There are also additional classes that are required for the bachelor's degree here at OC. These classes don't necessarily need to be completed in order to apply to the program, but they will eventually need to be completed in order to graduate. All of our nursing students do need a nutrition class. Either Nutrition 101 or Nurse 118 is acceptable. If you don't have nutrition prior to starting the program, you will have to take a nutrition class in your second quarter of the program. Students also require 10 credits of math. 5 of those credits must be statistics, either Math 146 or B-Nurse 320. You will need to have your statistics class passed by your 6th quarter in the program. You'll also need 5 additional credits of any other college level math class. That is a 100 level or above math class. Commonly, our students will have Math 107, which is Math and Society, or Math 141, which is pre-calculus algebra, though any college level math class will count. We also have an optional class that's highly recommended, English 102, which is your second composition class, although this class isn't required to apply or to graduate. Our BSN students will need to have 10 credits of world language at the college level. This includes Spanish, French, American Sign Language, or any world language. If you took 2 years of the same language in high school and earned at least a C or above, that will also meet this requirement. You'll just need to submit your official high school transcripts to verify. You'll need at least 15 credits of humanities electives, which includes classes such as communication studies, literature, any foreign languages, music, art, etc. You'll also need 15 credits of social science electives. Psych 100 will automatically count as 5 of those credits, but other classes from psychology, sociology, history, political science, etc. will count as social sciences. You'll also need at least 10 credits of upper division electives. These are non-nursing classes that are numbered 300 or above. Some of these upper division electives can also count as a social science or humanities elective. Some of your BSN classes can also count for social science or humanities electives. You don't have to worry about counting up all of these credits. I will review your transcripts when we create your academic plan at the start of the program. So you will know exactly what classes you've completed and what classes you'll need to take in order to earn that degree in 2 years. If you need to complete your science prerequisites at OC, you will need to follow a specific sequence. Math 99 is intermediate algebra, and it's a required prerequisite for Chemistry 121. After you pass Chemistry 121, you'll need to take Chemistry 131, which is an organic or biochemistry class. Now, this Chem 131 class is not required for any of our nursing programs, but it is a required prerequisite for anatomy and physiology. After you pass the first half of anatomy and physiology, you can take the second half of anatomy and physiology, as well as your microbiology class. An optional completion plan if you want to complete these classes in 3 or 4 quarters instead of 5 or 6. You can complete Math 99 or score very high in your Math Accuplacer in order to take Chemistry 121. And you can technically take Chemistry 131 and Biology 241 together in the same quarter. However, it's not necessarily recommended since they're both 6-credit lab courses, so it can be quite a heavy load. There's also an option to test out of Chemistry 131. For more information about this testing out option, you can visit the chemistry webpage listed below. In the same way, you can also take Biology 242 and Biology 260 together in the same quarter, but again, taking 2 lab science classes in the same quarter is not necessarily recommended. If you've completed your classes outside of OC, you will need to submit your official transcripts. We do accept physical copies of your transcripts as long as they're sealed. They can be mailed or dropped off at the Bremerton campus. We also accept official electronic copies of your transcripts as long as they're sent directly from your school or a transcript ordering services. They can be sent directly to evaluators at olympic.edu. If you want those transcripts officially evaluated to transfer those credits, you'll also need to submit a transfer credit evaluation form. This is not an automatic process. We need both your official transcripts and this evaluation form on file. You also must be an OC student and enrolled in classes before they'll start evaluating your transcripts. For more information about this process, you can visit the link on the screen. An additional process that's required for the nursing department is the course review process. If you took one of your science prerequisites outside of Washington State, you may need to have the course reviewed to ensure that it is equivalent to one of the prerequisites that you would take here at OC. If you've taken any of your science prerequisites at a Washington State community or technical college, you won't have to do a course review because we're all in a common course numbering system. However, we don't have that agreement with colleges outside of Washington State. So this process is in place just to ensure that a college class that you took outside of OC would be equivalent to one of the classes you would take here at OC. In order to start this process, you can email me directly and attach your course syllabus. If there's a separate syllabus for the lecture and the lab sections, please include both. You'll also need to attach your unofficial transcript showing when and where you took the class. I'll forward this information to our science faculty and they will review the materials to ensure that the class is equivalent. Here is a review of the different processes that students will need to go through if they have credits outside of OC. The transfer credit evaluation is a broad general process that any student who has classes outside of OC will need to go through. This is where you submit your official transcripts and the transcript evaluation request form, and it's handled through the evaluators in the registration office. You will need to be an OC student and enrolled in classes to be eligible to start this evaluation process. The course review process is much more specific. It's only for the nursing program and only for those sciences that were taken outside of Washington State. This can be done anytime prior to being a student or applying to our programs. Send me an email with the syllabus and your unofficial transcripts. A few other details about credits. At OC, we do have a 3 attempts policy, so you can take a class up to 3 times in order to improve your grade, and we will accept your most recent attempt at a class. If after 3 attempts you do not achieve at least a 2.0 or above in one of those required classes, you would not be eligible to apply to the program. Currently, we do not have an expiration policy for prerequisites. So even if you took your class a few years ago, as long as it is equivalent and it will transfer into OC, we will accept it. After you've completed your prerequisites and the AccuPlacer, you can submit your application. We do accept applications year-round, or if you are currently attending your last prerequisite in winter quarter, as long as the class is completed by that March 31st deadline, that will also count. That means that classes taken in spring quarter will not count for that year's application, and if you're taking a class at a college or university on a semester system, if the class continues on into April or May, it also wouldn't count for that year's application. With the application form, please submit a 1 to 2 page personal statement and an up-to-date resume outlining your professional or academic experiences. Include a copy of either your LPN license or your DD-214 to verify your eligibility. And with your application, you'll also want to include a copy of your AccuPlacer scores. We do require 3 professional letters of recommendation, which can be completed by anyone who can speak to your abilities in the healthcare field. This would include any supervisors, colleagues, or any previous faculty. Please include all of your official transcripts by that March 31st deadline. There's also a $50 application fee, which can be paid through the OC cashier. All application materials must be received by March 31st for consideration for that fall quarter cohort. The factoring system is how we determine who gets into the program each year. The factor system is points-based. All courses that earn points must be completed by the March 31st deadline to receive those points. The first group of points are based on your cumulative GPA of the 6 required prerequisite courses: English, psychology, chemistry, anatomy and physiology, and microbiology. There are up to 6 points possible total depending on the GPA of these 6 classes. Your points are determined on the average of those 6 classes. So if the average GPA is 3.7 to 4.0, then you will earn all 6 of the GPA factor points. If the average GPA of those 6 classes is a 3.5 or 3.6, then you would earn 5 out of the 6 possible factor points, and so on down the line. It's important to note that these 6 points are only based on those 6 prerequisites. We don't substitute any courses for the 6 prerequisites, and we don't look at your cumulative college GPA for these points. Additional points are based on the completion of some of those additional support classes that are required for the BSN degree. So if you have your college level math class, your statistics class, the English 102 class, and your nutrition class with at least a 2.0 or above by the March 31st deadline, you will earn 1 point for each class that's completed. We also assign points based on the completion of your AccuPlacer reading score. If you scored at least a 260 to a 284, you would earn 1 point. If you did very well and scored a 285 or above, you would earn 2 points. And the breakdown for the classic version of the AccuPlacer: if you scored 84 to a 105, you would earn 1 point. If you earned 106 or above, you would earn 2 points. We also award an additional point for our rollover applicants. These are applicants who applied for the first time but didn't get in. So when they apply again for the second year, they will automatically get 1 extra point. So a first-time applicant has 12 points possible, 6 points based on the cumulative GPA of those 6 required prerequisites, 4 points based on the completion of some of those required support courses, and up to 2 points based on the reading section of the AccuPlacer. A second-time applicant will automatically have 13 points possible because they have access to that extra rollover point. We do assign points to all of our applications and rank them based on 13 points possible. So rollover applicants do have a little bit of an edge because they're the only applicants who can get the maximum 13 points possible. We don't take any other factors or any other classes into account. These are the only points that are awarded for the application process. So here is an example of a student number 1. In the top row, you can see the grades for each of their 6 required prerequisites. As you can see, most of their grades are pretty high, but their Chemistry 121 grade was a little bit lower. It was only a 3.0. However, because we take the average of those 6 classes and their other classes had higher grades, the average is above that 3.7 threshold at a 3.72. So the student would still get all 6 of the GPA factor points. We also awarded points for the completion of some of those support courses. The student completed a statistics class, an English 102 class, and their nutrition class, but it looks like they don't have another college level math class, so they didn't get a point there. They did very well on their AccuPlacer and earned 285, so they got 2 points there. This is also the second time that they're applying, so they got that extra rollover point. We add up all the points together, 6 based on the GPA of their prerequisites, the completion of some of those support classes, their AccuPlacer, and the rollover point to equal 12 out of 13 possible points. Here is the information for student number 2. As you can see, the grades for their 6 prerequisites vary a little bit more. So the average GPA of those 6 classes is a 3.18. Based on the chart we had a few slides ago, that would earn them 3 out of a possible 6 of the GPA factor points. They've also completed several of those support courses, but they only have statistics and not another college level math class, so they didn't get a point for that. They got a 260 on their AccuPlacer, so they got 1 out of a possible 2 factor points there. And this is the first time that they're applying, so they don't get that rollover point. We add up all their points together, and the student would have 7 out of a possible 13 factor points. Unfortunately, there isn't any magic number that will absolutely guarantee that you get accepted to the program, since you are ranked in comparison to the other applicants of that year. The best advice that I can provide is to maximize your factor points where you can to increase your likelihood of getting into the program. If the student didn't get in this year and I was meeting with them, I would have a few recommendations. I would suggest that they consider taking their college level math class. If they earn a 2.0 or above, they'll get an extra point there. They could possibly retake one of their prerequisites. Their Biology 260 or microbiology class is the lowest grade with only a 2.5. So if they retook that class and got a higher grade, that would increase the average GPA of their 6 prerequisites and possibly earn them additional GPA factor points. They can also retake their AccuPlacer and try to get a 285 or above to scoop up that extra point there. And they should definitely apply next year because when they apply again for the second time, they will automatically earn 1 rollover point. There are 3 types of classes that students will have once they are accepted to the VL-BSN pathway. Their theory or didactic classes are the pretty typical classes that you're familiar with, your lectures, class activities, taking exams, etc. Students will also have labs throughout the program. This is where you come onto campus and practice your skills in a safe environment. You will often work with your classmates and use them as patients to practice some of your non-invasive skills. We also have simulation technology and mannequins to practice some of your other skills safely. You will also have clinical placements throughout the program. This is where you are placed into a facility like a hospital or care center and get to work with real patients under the supervision of your clinical faculty. We also have simulation labs to assist with this process. The VL-BSN pathway is a hybrid program. That means that some of your classes may be online or in person. Most of your classes in your first year will be in person. This includes all of your labs and clinical placements and some of your lecture classes. You'll also have online classes. A synchronous online class will be a class that is online but will have specific meeting times where you'll have to be present on your computer and online in the class. An asynchronous class is a completely online class with no specific meeting times. The first year of the program will be primarily in person for most of your labs, classes, and clinicals. In the second year, when you move on to your advanced nursing classes, most of your classes will be primarily online. This is a 2-year program. It is 8 consecutive quarters. The way that the program is designed is to be full-time. However, you can take some classes early to lighten the load of certain quarters. For example, on the right, you will see the template academic plan for the first year in the program. If you'll notice, in the first fall quarter, you have several nursing classes and modules, and that is also the spot where you can take your college level math class for 14 credits total. However, if you've already completed your college level math class, you won't have to take another one, so you'll only have 9 credits of required classes that quarter. In your second winter quarter, you'll have your reproductive and pediatric classes, as well as nutrition. But if you take nutrition early, then you'll only have 10 instead of 15 required credits you'll have to take that quarter. You also have to take into account the time that you'll need to study for each class. It is commonly recommended that for each hour you are in class, you'll need at least 1 to 2 hours to study in order to be successful in that class. So while it is designed as a full-time program, you can possibly have some quarters that are part-time if you complete some of those general education classes early, which is why we highly recommend our students to complete classes as soon as they can. Within the program and before the program, we do have certain grade expectations. All prerequisites must be completed with at least a 2.0 GPA, but once you're in the program, you need to achieve at least a 2.2 in all of your nursing classes. If for some reason you were not able to achieve the required 2.2 GPA in one of your nursing classes, you would not be eligible to continue on to the next quarter. You would have to exit the program and then petition the faculty to re-enter the program in the exact same spot the following year. If for some reason you failed a clinical course because of a serious safety concern, you would not be eligible to petition to re-enter the program. Before you start your clinicals, you will need to provide additional documentation. All of our students will need basic life support, malpractice and liability insurance, which can be purchased through the OC cashier, personal health insurance, a whole list of immunizations, and we also do a background check for all of our accepted students. It's important to note that you don't need to provide any of these materials with your application. Some of them, particularly your up-to-date immunizations, are very time sensitive. So we do recommend that you wait to hear if you're in the program before you start gathering these materials. We do have some technology expectations when you're in the program. Your student email is the primary way that the nursing department will communicate with you. So it is important that you regularly check your student email. Word processing is required for various papers and class assignments. having access to the internet, using the library and database searches in order to get information for your assignments and for client care. We also use Canvas for all of our classes. This is where you'll be able to access your class materials and submit assignments. We will teach you how to use electronic medical records and the simulation technology that we have in the program, but it is important that you at least familiarize yourself with the first 4 items. It is important that you're able to have some familiarity with these so that you're not struggling in that first quarter with how to use Canvas or how to get information you need to prepare for an assignment. If you are unfamiliar with Canvas, General Studies 97 is a free resource available to all OC students to teach you about Canvas. And if you need a little bit of help knowing how to use the internet and using research, our Nurse 102 class is available every summer quarter. We also use a test-taking software called Examplify or ExamSoft. So all of your major tests and exams will be taken on a computer. This is a program that you download to your computer, and it securely and safely downloads the exam, allows you to take the exam securely, and then securely uploads the exam back into the cloud. If you are taking an exam in class, you will need to have this program downloaded on a laptop. This program doesn't work with any Chromebooks or tablets or phones, so if you need to check out a laptop, you can contact the help desk. Before you accept admission into our VL-BSN pathway, here are some things that you'll need to agree to. Most of our classes are going to be during the weekdays in the morning or afternoons, but occasionally, if some unusual circumstances occur, it might get pushed to an evening or possibly even on a weekend. It's important that you attend all classes. You are responsible for all information given in those classes. It's also important that you participate in all of your clinical experiences. You do need a certain number of clinical hours in order to qualify for licensure. Most of your clinicals will typically be scheduled during a weekday, but possibly they might get scheduled during an evening, night, or weekend shift. Most of our clinical sites are around the Bremerton area. Some might be up near Poolsville or down near Gig Harbor. If you live even farther away from Bremerton, this might mean that you have an even further commute in order to get to your clinical site. So we just ask that while you're in the program, you do your best to prioritize your program and clinical schedules. If for some reason you're not able to commit to the schedule within the program, please do not accept your provisional acceptance into the VL-BSN pathway. If you have any additional questions or you'd like to schedule an advising appointment to discuss the VL-BSN pathway, feel free to email me directly at ablake@olympic.edu. And thank you for watching.